Hi, everyone. Welcome back to HR Debatable. My name is Nelly Valenden. I'm your host, as always, and today I'm being joined by two fantastic guests. I'm here with Azo Nadi and Faye Wallace. Hi, Azo, and hi, Faye.
Hi, Nelly.
All right, let's start by perhaps a little bit of an introduction for each of you. So perhaps, Azo, can you introduce yourselves in a few words?
Yeah, I am Arzanadi and I'm the founder of AI Loves HR, which is a consultancy focusing on AI for HR. We're also an about to be SaaS company and are building something exciting in the HR space.
Thank you. Faye, can you maybe also introduce yourself?
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me here. Hi, I'm Faye Wallace. I'm a career and executive coach who specialised in working with HR professionals. I also have got a podcast as well, which is called HR Coffee Time. And I create a tool every year, which is called the Essential HR Planner, which is something to help all HR professionals set their goals and their tasks across the year so they can have a fantastic year.
Thank you. All right. So for everybody tuning in, perhaps for the first time today, let me quickly explain what we do here in HR Debatable. So as the name suggests, in HR Debatable, two guests, they have various debates about HR and world of work related topics with each other. So I will give a short introduction. I will then share the statement, and then both Azo and Faye, they will be able to give their opinion on the statement. So that's the podcast in a nutshell. And sometimes I take on the role of devil's advocate to spice things up a little bit. That's it. Faye, Azo, are you ready to get started?
Yes.
I'm ready to go.
Nice. All right. So here goes for the first round. The theme here is HR skills. And the inspiration for this first debate comes from a podcast I recorded a few years ago already with Lars Schmidt about HR skills. And also the inspiration comes from some of the suggestions I got from Faye for this episode. Now, let me share a part of what Lars told me when I asked him what skills he believes are important for people professionals. So here's what Lars said. What I might add would be executive branding and presence and the ability to influence up and down the organization. I believe that this is a vital component to modern chief people officers and often something that they get zero training in, while they need that to be successful. If you're influencing the board, for instance, or pushing back perhaps against the CEO who's trying to go into what in your opinion is the wrong direction, and if you don't have that ability to influence and to communicate and to make a compelling argument and back it up and stand by it firmly, it is going to be really hard to move forward. As HR practitioners, we are constantly interacting with other people in the organization, whether they are managers, members of the board, or our peers and coworkers. Often, we're also making a case for new tools or technology, new policies, and so on. To make these points come across, not only do we need to have a strong communication skills, we also need to be able to have a certain influence. And this, Faye and Azo, brings me to our first statement for today. Here comes. Influencing is an indispensable skill for HR professionals. All right, influencing is an indispensable skill for HR professionals. Today, I'm going to start with you, Faye. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
It's a firm yes from me.
All right, thank you. Azo, do you vote yes or do you vote no?
Absolutely yes.
Oh, interesting start. All right, Faye, I'm going to go back to you. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about why you voted yes.
Yes, the reason that I voted yes is because I've got so much experience of having encountered this. Because all of my coaching is with HR professionals, I found that this was one of the key things people were coming to me for support with. They wouldn't always know that's actually what they were coming for support with because they'd present with a challenge. So I might have someone coming to me who was incredibly frustrated because they had an idea for a fantastic initiative that they knew would have a brilliant impact on the workplace and really help the organization succeed. But they were getting pushback from the CEO, or it might be the COO. It's someone key within the senior leadership team. And the ramifications of that were that they were feeling, for example, really undervalued or start doubting themselves. And then it starts to affect their confidence. So they would come to me saying, please, can I work on my confidence? But when we started to unpick it, I'd realize actually the real challenge here is the influencing. Because just as Lars said that you read out earlier, the fact is that most HR professionals don't receive any training in this. We're given lots of training on all the technical stuff, the employment law stuff, but actually a really key skill is influencing, but we're never really taught how to do that. So we're guessing a bit, we're doing what comes naturally to us, which won't work with everybody, or we're perhaps looking at other people in the organization and seeing how they're doing it. And it means that we might be missing out on a few key skills that could really help us with boosting our influencing.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you so much. I'm going to come back to that. But first, also, I would like to hear from you.
Yes, I'd second what Faye said. It's absolutely, for me, one of the most vital skills, especially as you kind of also move up the organization into leadership roles and so forth. And oftentimes HR finds themselves in a position where they have to establish that connection and that leadership across functions, right? So in a way, it is so important to have that ability to influence, but also build trust, right? That trust that comes with being an impartial but also a supportive team member. And if it's the leadership team, it's the different members of the leadership team that you need to build that trust and communication with, as well as different department leaders or employees within departments. So I think it's an absolute key skill because of the need for impartiality, but also because you do become a go-to person in terms of being able to kind of support with building relationships across functions and breaking silos as well.
Thank you, Azo. Yes, and what I'm gathering from basically what both of you are saying is that it's influencing for sure, and I do indeed think that might go hand in hand with building trust, because of course once you've built that relationship of trust and you have the trust of, for instance, the board or other people in the organization, then I guess the influencing part, which has a bit of a certain ring to it, by the way, in my opinion, but that is maybe because of the social media influencer thing that then pops up into my mind. But of course, then I think the influencing will go much easier. Something that I was wondering about is, Faye, you mentioned it briefly. So people come to you and then you figure out that sometimes it's not as much about their confidence, but more about, the influencing skill. And I'm aware of the fact that this might not be something that you can answer in a few seconds. But for people listening maybe and, thinking, yes, that's something that I would like to also start working on. Yeah, how do you build that skill? How can you start? Can you maybe tell us something about that?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. Gosh, we're really lucky. There are so many resources and books and podcast episodes out there to help. I think once you start to realize that this is a skill that can massively impact your career in a positive way, it's then much easier to start taking a look and seeing what there is. So I could share so many different models with you, but probably a quick and easy one to talk to you about is DISC, or Insights, which lots of people will have probably come across before. And that is an assessment that helps you to identify your behavioral tendencies. So we all have certain ways that we tend to prefer to behave that come more naturally to us. And amongst those are our communication and influencing skills. So depending where you map on a DISC profile or an Insights profile, they're both based on similar methodology. There are 4 key styles that tend to exist within the workplace. And you'll find that you're a blend of all of them, but you tend to lean towards 1 or 2 of them. And often if you're finding it hard to influence one person in particular, it's probably because they have a very different style. So by being able to understand or guess, make an educated guess as to what their style is, or if they've had an assessment, you'll know, you can then adapt yours. So for example, in DISC, there are 4 letters. You've got D, I, S, and C. If you have a D profile, that might mean that you're not afraid of conflict. You're not afraid of being confrontational. You're very fast paced. You're very driven. You tend to be more facts orientated than feelings orientated. So if you haven't got that profile and you have been trying to convince that person by talking about emotions and feelings and why we're doing the right thing and using stories, and that person is just saying, what? No, or you're taking forever to get to the point, that may be why you've got a clash with them. So you can think, okay, my style's a different one. How can I start to adapt more to be able to suit theirs? But you've also got, of course, the polar opposite of that. So you could have an I style, which means that you're great at storytelling. You're also actually probably quite fast paced, but you do tend towards more feelings. And it may be that actually you aren't bringing very much data to support what it is that you would like to do. And then let's say you're trying to convince a different profile, a C profile. A C profile is all about data and facts and getting everything right. So if you're trying to convince them and you're not bringing data or facts with you, it's going to be much harder. So hopefully you can see straight away how one very simple framework, it can cause a real aha moment for people, because we'll say, how do you like to be influenced? How do you tend to communicate with people? And most people will have a sense for what they find engaging or convincing, or what they respond to really well, and actually what they tend to shy away from. And it may be that for the person in particular they're trying to influence, they've got to lean more into those skills that they tend to shy away from, that don't come as naturally to them. So that's just one example, but there are lots of other things as well that can be helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this makes a lot of sense. And it basically starts with, I think, knowing what kind of style that you are. And then, of course, the person that you are dealing with as well. And I totally can see how if one person is more data oriented than somebody else, then that we would there have some sort of miscommunication, and that makes things a lot more difficult. Whereas if we are aware of that, we can, of course, take that into account. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.